Hey everyone, how we doing? This video here is for your week 3 here in Comp 2. You'll notice that this week 3 is from my point of view and it's not finished yet. That's okay, I'm doing this video early. I do want to show you what you're going to be doing for this week. For week 3, your outline is due. So you need to make sure you finish that outline and get that in for comments. You don't see it here yet, but you will see a particular assignment spot to turn that in. It'll be just like uploading an attachment into an email. You'll upload your Word document into that, submit it. I'll make comments on it. When you come back afterwards, you'll see when you click back into the assignment, you'll see like these bubble comments throughout, and that's my comments. You click those, you'll see what my comments are for those particular parts. More on that later. Right now, this video here is for week 3. It's going to be discussing how to document your source. Now, with this being Comp 2, I'm not planning on going into really deep information about documentation. This is something you should have mastered or been introduced to at least in your Comp 1 class. But I do want to take a minute to talk about that and show you where you go so you can find your information to get your documentation set up. Now, how that's going to look inside your rough draft and everything like that, we can discuss that later. Right now, your main goal is to find the documentation information for your particular site or for your particular source and build it, okay? We'll worry about how pretty it's going to be inside the rough draft later. So right now, obviously, documentation, your rhetorical analysis needs to be focused upon analyzing one argument, which is your primary source. It is the source in which you are analyzing, okay? That is your primary source. So and it should have come from, like, say, procon.org or something like that, some type of website. So it should be a lot easier for us. So we want to make sure that we document that. And there's 2 places to document that source. The first place is in text. Anytime you reference information from that source, you must cite it. It'll be cited with what we call parenthetical. So you'll open parentheses, you'll include the correct information, you'll close the parentheses, period, at the end of the sentence. If you do a direct quote, you will put the citation at the end of the quote. If you just paraphrase from that source in that paragraph, it will go at the very end of the paragraph. Since every paragraph should be citing, or should be referencing and focusing on analyzing that source, every body paragraph should have an in-text citation. And if you do not have any in-text citations, warning, if you do not have any in-text citations in your paper at the end during the final draft, you will lose major points on this paper. Same goes for the other portion of your documentation, which is your works cited page. It is the very last page, just like the phone book entry, for your reader on how to go about finding that source. So it gives all the specific sources. The in-text citation lets the reader know, hey, this is a reference to the type of source. Go to the works cited page at the end to get more information. And so on the works cited page, there's a lot more detailed information in a particular presentation and order, and that's what we want to talk about. It will be a page on its own. At the very top, it'll have a title. It says Works Cited. I'll show you some examples on that, and then you'll have one source. Even though it's just one source, you still cite it in every body paragraph, and you still have it on your works cited page. Again, if you don't have a works cited page, you will lose major points, so we want to make sure we get that here. Obviously, in week 3, your outlines due. I'm not asking too much right now, but I do want you to get your source cited now, so that's something we don't have to worry about later, because it will haunt you if you wait till the last minute. So let's talk about how do I cite my sources, how do I find out how to do it, and so on. So I want to bring up and introduce you, if you haven't seen it before, which I assume many of you already have, the Purdue Owl, which is the online writing lab. So as you'll see here in week 3, you will see there is a link directly to the Purdue Owl for the Mla Formatting guide. Now, if you're in another class doing something that is not MLA, the Purdue Owl has it. The Purdue Owl has tons. As a matter of fact, if you look over here on the left, there, I'm going to close this up a little bit here. See, there we go. Tons of styles. There's tons of stuff about English and writing that will help you. So it's a really good comprehensive website. A lot of folks like to go here because it gives you the most up-to-date MLA formatting, okay? So MLA, besides your typing requirements with your headers and everything like that we've seen with their typing requirement sheet, MLA stands for Modern Language Association. Every particular discipline has a decided upon structure, a format for their research, so it's just easier for everybody to understand and follow within that field. So MLA is what we're using here. So when we go into MLA here, and even if you're using APA, which may be much more common for many of y'all, it will work the exact same way if you just follow the rules here. So once we click into MLA, it takes us here. It gives you everything from the basic stuff from the beginning. What we're looking for as far as, formatting and everything like that, how everything should, it's a little bit too much right now. So let's talk about one thing at a time. In-text citations, okay? So that's the next page, in-text citation basics. And this goes into explaining how this works, where to put them, everything like that. As you'll notice here, I'm going to highlight it real quick. That is the most common in-text citation, okay? It should always be, if available, inside the parentheses, as you can see at the end of this quote, the author's last name and then the page number from whence it came. Now, if you're pulling something for the internet, you're not going to have a page number, okay? Understand that. You're not going to have a page number. You will likely, depending on where you pull it, have an author's last name. So if you lack the page number, just stick your author's last name in there and let that be it, okay? Again, if you quote, like you see here, the citation goes at the very end of the quote. If you are paraphrasing and it's not a direct quote, it's in your own words, you still have to cite it. It goes at the end of the paragraph, okay? And so that's what we want to see. So if you notice, the structure of this website is all what matters. If you understand your structure, you'll know where to go to find stuff. So you'll notice here, you'll have these big bold parts that tell you what type of source. If you have this type of source, follow this template. If you have this type of source, follow this template. So notice this. For an in-text citation for a printed source, so like a book with a known author, this is how you do it. All right? In-text citation for printed source by a corporate author, unknown or no known author. What do you do? And this is important here. I want to point this out because it doesn't matter if it's printed or not. If you go to a website, let's just say you go to a news website that doesn't have, it's from an editorial team, or it doesn't say who one particular person wrote it. What do you do? How do you cite it? Because you don't have a page number and you don't have a name to put in there. What do I do? This shows you what you do. You take a shortened version, and this is probably going to be more common for a lot of y'all than you think. You take a shortened version of the title. So if you have a really big long title like this right here, The Impact of Global Warming in North America, you want to shorten that and put it inside your parentheses. Notice, to show that it is a title, it puts the quotation marks too. Y'all, that's what it should look like. Just use that as your guide. Make sure it looks like this. Documentation can be frustrating because all you got to do is look at it and make it look exactly the same. So often it shows how many students aren't really following and looking into it deeply. So that's going to be very common for y'all. If you have an author with a last name, it should look like this, just without the page number, right? If you don't have an author from your source, it will look like this, a shortened title. All right, y'all, and that's pretty much it. You can go through the rest of this because I want you to discover and dig in this and explore this as well, because we're going to keep doing this in every paper. So you're going to have to get comfortable going in there and looking on your own, okay? I want you to email me questions. If you're having a hard time, fine. But simply asking, Mr. Hancock, how do I cite blank? Well, the first thing I'm going to ask is, did you go look it up in the Purdue Owl? It's more about you learning how to be autonomous and independent in this as much as it is me telling you how to do something. So first I want you to dig and try to find it, and if you can't, I'll help you and I'll guide you to it, okay? So this gives you all, notice that, citing a work by multiple authors. Go through the list and see what there is exactly to help you. Oh, that's it. That's what I need. So I'm going to make it look just like that. Just like that. What does et al. Mean? This tells you, it explains to you when you do that, how to do it, and so on, okay? Now, those are in-text citations. That's about as much as I can tell you and help you. These, I'm not requiring these to be done inside your outline, but they will be required of you in your works cited page. And when I take a look at them, I'll help you, okay? Most people who get burned really bad and lose a lot of points on documentation are those that don't do them in their works cited page, because I don't get to help you and give you feedback. So when you finally do them on your final draft, they're completely jacked up and you lose points. So we want them done as soon as possible. If you want to stick them in there in your outline, you can, and I'll take a look at them and give you some feedback there too. That way we can know they're done correctly. All right, y'all. So that is for in-text citations. Now let's talk about the works cited page. Now when you click here, it says works cited page basic format. It tells you how these entries kind of look. And it reminds me, like I said, of a phone book. If you go and look in an old phone book, it's kind of irrelevant now, but if you look at an old phone book, you'll notice that all the entries look exactly the same. They all have the same structure, basic structure. MLA, any kind of works cited page, reference pages, bibliographies do the same. They all have a basic structure, okay? So this kind of explains you how this works as far as a basic structure, okay? But mostly, let's look at an example of how it should look here, okay? Let me go right over here. I'm going to show you the sample paper. Now, of course, the sample paper that you're going to see here has a lot of annotations all on it and stuff like that. Just look at the paper itself. We can scroll down and see, do we see an in-text citation anywhere? I don't see one just yet. There we go. Bam. There's one right there. There's another right there. Obviously, they look different, but you'll notice that, oh, they're sticking these in here. So notice Danhoff and Hurt. When we go to the Works Cited page, we'll be able to find those entries specifically with all the details we'll need to find those sources ourselves, okay? So let's go ahead and jump down to the Works Cited page. Of course, this one's going to look massive because there's multiple sources. You're only going to have one source, but honestly, if you could do one, you could do 100. So anyway, look here. This is how a Works Cited should look. We've got a Works Cited title at the top, and this is called hanging indent when you see the first line kicked over compared to the rest. I have a video on that. So basically this gives you all the information you need when it comes to that, all right? So how do we know how our sources need to be done like, okay? So the way to do it is let's take a look. You're getting this from a website. If you're not getting this from a website, an electronic source, you need to let me know immediately. So when I come over here, I'm going to look for MLA Works Cited electronic sources. So I'm going to click this. All right, so now we just have to identify through our big bold subtitles here what type of source we're looking at here, okay? So let's scroll down and see. It gives us our basic. Okay, are we citing an entire website? Probably not. A page on a website? That's probably where you're going to be looking right there. An ebook, an image, don't do an image right now. An article in a web magazine, possibly. You're not going to do these just yet, but you will. And don't do an email, obviously. Don't do a tweet, you know, stuff like that. A YouTube video, don't do that either. Find me a website. So if you're looking at a website, whether it be from like New York Times or Procon or something like that, you're going to be looking at a page on a website, okay? And so look here. This gives you two examples. One is if there is an author, and one is if there is not an author, okay? So you can look here directly at the one where there is an author, and you can say right here, first thing is the last name, then the first name, so name first, last, then first. Then the title of the article. So in quotations, how to make vegetarian chili. The website itself is italicized with a comma right before you move into the actual URL. And then period, and then accessed, and then the day you accessed it with the day first before the month. That's it, okay? That's all you have to do. Now, again, what do I do if I don't have an author? You just leave the author off, and it would look like this. This one, you'll notice, actually has a date. Some will post a date of when it was written on the website. If they do, that's where you include it. If they don't, leave it out. That's all. That's all you have to do. So remember, also, looking back up here, if this was an in-text, if we had to do an in-text citation for the Susan Ludeman article, what do we put in the in-text citation? Ludeman. That's it. What about this one? If we don't have an author here, what do we put in the in-text citation? A shortened title. So I would do Athlete's Foot. That's it. That's what we want to do. Your works cited page is your very last page on your essay. It is not tacked onto the bottom of your last page of the essay, of the paragraphs, excuse me. Even if you go over one word or one sentence over to a fourth page, you still need to go to a completely brand new page for your works cited page. Even for one source. Doesn't matter. That's what you want to do. Okay, y'all, I'm out of time on this video. If you need any more help, number one, dig around and explore like we just did a little bit with the Purdue Owl. And ask me for help. Let me know if you need anything, okay? And y'all have a good day.